Let's talk about the Jaffa Gate for a second. And it says the street will be rebuilt and the wall and even the moat will be rebuilt in troublesome times. When we know that there's a guy named Suleiman who rebuilt the wall and the moat there in Jerusalem, and he did that in 945, the year 945 on the Muslim calendar. Okay, this is at the Jaffa Gate. And there was an inscription there that he put saying the year that he finished that wall and that he rebuilt the wall. So the construction was completed in 945, the year 945 on the Muslim Hijra calendar. Now, if you look at the Muslim Hijra calendar, the last month of their calendar is called Dhu al-Hijjah, and it can have, that's the 12th, they have 12 months, just like we all do, and, well, at least most of us, and the number of days is 29 to 30 days, depending on the actual observation of the moon's crescent. So they also observe the moon's crescent. That's why you often see that little crescent moon with Islam, right? So, okay, so this is the last month of that month. It's called Dhu al-Hijjah. Okay, and here, when you look at the date of when did Suleiman finish, it says 1938 to 39, and I'm going to explain why that is. Why is it both 38 and 39? Well, if you look at the calendar, okay, and you put in 945, that's the year that was inscribed for the Jaffa Gate to be completed, and it doesn't work for 30. 30 bounces the next year, so I guess that year it was 29 days in that calendar. So you put Dhu al-Hijjah, the 12th month, and the 29th day, and you calculate it, right? That brings you to May of 1539 on both the Gregorian and the Julian calendar, okay? 10 days apart, May 28th and May 18th. Now, why is that significant? Okay, well, last year we talked about this. On May 15th and 16th, there was this amazing blood moon. Won't go into great detail. I've done too many videos on it, so go watch this. I guess I won't say too many because, you know, it's always something good in there, but I've done a lot. So go check out those videos on it. But basically, amazing blood moon. It went along with, the date that Israel became a nation. It also seemed to signify the true Passover at that time, and so forth. Well, this date is conveniently just after that time, May 18th to 28th, right? So in other words, this could be the latest date that this wall possibly could have been finished. If indeed it was finished that year, they didn't put it on there and then finish it the next year or something like that. But if we're to go by the date that's inscribed that this wall was completed, because that's what it says the wall was built. Let me go back there. It says, this wall be built. It was in 945. So if that's the case, that means by May 18th, okay, now that's 1539, right? So you're like, well, what does 1539 mean? Okay. So if you take the 69 weeks, right, that have to be fulfilled from the time when they start, are going to build this wall until Messiah the Prince, you get 483 days or years, okay? So if you add 483 years to 1539, when this would be completed, that would have been 2022. But it would have been 2022 as late as May 18th to May 28th. Well, what is interesting about that is that's just after the start or end of that year. Well, I should say, yeah, I mean the end of that time period. In other words, it puts them into a Shemitah. So in other words, Messiah could have came at that moment, but by the time that was completed, it was already a Shemitah year in which God rests. So now, and technically you could say this is also somewhat like a Shemitah year because it's a Jubilee year, but in a Jubilee year he comes to restore all things. So it makes a lot more sense that if you take that year and you add the 483 years, that technically was fulfilled last year, but it was just after the mark. Right now, if it had been like early May, he might have still done it that year, but it was just after the mark of when that year began that it pushed it because of the Shemitah cycle, because the Shemitah is a year of rest. It pushed it to 2023. So you would add a year to that to get 2023. So could it be that Messiah Nagid, Messiah the Prince, is about to appear on the scene, this being what we understand to be the first month before or in conjunction with this false prince, this dark prince, prince of darkness, being crowned as well at the same time. Now, I think Carla Ecrosymphony pointed this out to me. The fall of the Roman Empire happened in 476 AD. They even know the day it happened, September 4th. I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, wow, you know what day it fell? 476 AD is the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Now, if you take 2023 and you subtract 476, you get 1547. That's roughly 7 years after the completion of that wall, around 1540. So I thought that was kind of intriguing as well. God works in sevens, and that he brings down the fall of Rome, because we're looking at a 7-year period here where the rise of the Roman Empire is supposed to return, right? People talk about when the Antichrist comes, the Roman Empire is restored. And so for the Roman Empire to fall exactly 7 years following that, now again, yeah, it goes to 1540, but if you think they ended in September, so depending on how you work those numbers, because the Hagid, the Muslim calendar goes from the middle of our Gregorian to the middle of our Gregorian. So depending on how you work those numbers, maybe it's the 7 years and 6 months, right? Like David, the 7 years and 6 months. Maybe it's something along those lines. But I thought it was very intriguing that the Roman Empire just happened to fall 7 years later, and that's exactly what's going to happen now. The Roman Empire will fall for good. So I thought that was kind of cool.